The doorbell rang like a guillotine dropping, slicing through the chaos of my morning. I froze, a half-eaten granola bar in one hand, my toddler's sticky fingers smearing jam on my jeans. Karen, my mother, was here unannounced, as always, ready to judge. I'm Jake, a 32-year-old graphic designer, married to Emily, the love of my life and a woman stretched thinner than a dollar store dish towel. We've got two kids, Mia, our 5-year-old tornado, and Ben, a 2-year-old master of destruction. Our house, a modest 2-bedroom in suburban Ohio, looks like a toy store exploded mid-battle with a laundry monster. Emily's been juggling her nursing job, night shifts, and the kids while I've been buried in freelance deadlines. We're a team, but lately, we're a team playing a losing game. And Karen, she's the referee who loves to blow the whistle. I opened the door, and there she was, Karen, in her pristine cardigan. Her silver hair pulled back so tight it could have doubled as a facelift. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned the living room behind me. Toys littered the floor like landmines. Dishes teetered in the sink, and a mystery stain on the couch screamed neglect. Her lips curled into that familiar smirk, the one that said, "I knew you couldn't handle this." "Jacob," she said, stepping inside without an invitation. "This place is a pigsty. Where's Emily?" Her tone dripped with accusation, as if I'd personally orchestrated the mess to offend her. "She's at work," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Night shift. She'll be home soon." Karen raised an eyebrow, her heels clicking on the hardwood as she surveyed the damage. "Work, and who's managing this disaster?" She gestured at a pile of unfolded laundry like it was a crime scene. Mia ran by, shrieking, chasing Ben, who was wielding a marker like a sword. Karen's eyes narrowed. "Clearly not you." I bit my tongue. Karen had always been like this, controlling, critical, convinced she was the gold standard of motherhood. When Emily and I got married, Karen made it clear she thought Emily was too modern for her taste, too career-driven, too soft with the kids. Never mind that Emily was breaking her back to keep us afloat while I scrambled to rebuild my client list after a layoff. Karen didn't see effort. She saw flaws. "I'm doing my best." "Mom," I said, scooping Ben up before he could graffiti the walls. "We're managing." "Managing," she laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "This isn't managing. This is chaos. I'll wait for Emily. She needs to hear this." She sat on the edge of the couch, avoiding the stain, her posture rigid as a judge awaiting a verdict. My stomach twisted. Emily was due home any minute, exhausted from a 12-hour shift saving lives. The last thing she needed was Karen's lecture. But arguing with my mother was like wrestling a brick wall, pointless and painful. So I busied myself tidying up, tossing toys into bins, wiping down counters, anything to delay the inevitable. The mess wasn't just clutter. It was a snapshot of our lives right now. Emily and I were drowning. Her hospital was understaffed, and my freelance gigs were feast or famine. We hadn't had a proper date in months. The kids were our joy, but they were also relentless. Mia's tantrums had escalated since starting kindergarten, and Ben's newfound mobility meant nothing was safe. We were surviving, but barely, and Karen's presence felt like a spotlight on our failures. The front door creaked open, and Emily shuffled in, her scrubs wrinkled, her auburn hair escaping its ponytail. Her eyes, usually bright, were shadowed with fatigue. She saw Karen and froze, her shoulders sagging further. "Karen," she said, forcing a smile. "Didn't know you were coming." "Clearly," Karen said, standing. "Look at this place." "Emily, is this how you raise my grandchildren, in filth?" Emily's smile vanished. "It's been a rough week," she said, her voice tight. She dropped her bag by the door and kicked off her shoes, clearly too tired to engage. But Karen wasn't letting it go. "A rough week doesn't excuse this," Karen snapped, gesturing at the mess. "When I raised Jacob, my house was spotless. Meals were home-cooked. Children were disciplined. You're letting everything fall apart." I saw Emily's hands clench, her nails digging into her palms. "Karen, I'm doing everything I can, she said, her voice low but trembling. I work nights. I'm with the kids all day. I'm not superhuman. Then maybe you shouldn't be working, Karen said, her tone icy. A mother's place is at home. Jacob's out here failing, and you're not even trying to keep up. That was it. Emily's eyes flashed, and I felt the air shift, like the calm before a storm. Failing, Emily said, stepping forward. You think I'm failing, I'm keeping people alive. Karen, I'm raising two kids who are happy and loved, even if the house isn't perfect. What have you done lately besides criticize? Karen's face reddened, but she didn't back down. Don't you dare speak to me like that. I'm trying to help you. You're letting my son and my grandchildren live in squalor. Squalor, Emily laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. This is life, Karen. Real life. Not your Pinterest perfect fantasy from 30 years ago. You want to help grab a broom? Otherwise, get out of my house. I stood there, stunned, as the two women faced off. Mia and Ben had gone quiet, sensing the tension, hiding behind the couch. I wanted to intervene, to defend Emily, but my voice caught in my throat. Karen had always intimidated me, her disapproval a weight I'd carried since childhood. But Emily, she was done. Karen grabbed her purse, her movements sharp. You'll regret this, she said, pointing at Emily. You're not fit to be a mother if you can't manage a home. That was the breaking point. Emily's face crumpled, not in defeat, but in rage. Get out, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. You don't get to come into my home and tear me down. Not today, not ever. Karen stormed out, slamming the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. The silence that followed was deafening. Emily sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. I rushed to her side, guilt gnawing at me. I'm sorry, I said, pulling her close. I should have stopped her. Emily shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. It's not your fault. She's always been like this. I can't do everything. Jake, I'm trying so hard. I know, I said, my heart aching. You're incredible. We'll figure this out, together. That night, after the kids were in bed, Emily and I sat down and talked, really talked for the first time in weeks. We admitted how overwhelmed we were, how Karen's words, though cruel, had hit a nerve. We weren't failing, but we were struggling, and pretending otherwise wasn't helping. We made a plan I'd take on more freelance work to afford a part-time cleaner, and Emily would talk to her boss about cutting back on night shifts. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. The next morning, Karen called. I braced myself, expecting another lecture, but her voice was different, quieter, almost hesitant. Jacob, she said, I may have been too harsh yesterday. I nearly dropped the phone. Karen, apologizing. It was like the sun rising in the west. Emily's under a lot of pressure, I said, choosing my words carefully. We both are. We're doing our best. I know, she said, and I could hear the strain in her voice. I wanted things to be perfect for you, for the kids. I see now I was wrong to judge. It wasn't a full apology, but it was more than I'd ever gotten from her. I told Emily, and she just nodded, still hurt but willing to move forward. She's your mom, she said. I'll forgive her. Eventually. Weeks later, Karen showed up again, this time with a casserole and an offer to babysit so Emily and I could have a night out. It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was a step. The house was still a mess, but it felt less like a battlefield. Emily and I were learning to lean on each other, to ask for help, to accept that perfection wasn't the goal. Love was. Karen's words had cut deep, but they'd also forced us to face our struggles head on. Sometimes it takes a storm to clear the air. We're not perfect, but we're a family, and we're fighting for each other, not against each other. What do you think was Karen out of line? Or did she have a point? To share your thoughts on where the line is between tough love and just being cruel?